Do you support Donald Trump?
I do.
And why is that?
Um, well, I work like 55 hours a week, so I don't really have time to look into policies and all that. But what I do know is that Trump knows the difference between a man and a woman.
Really? Okay, I have a question. Is he Christian?
Yes.
Okay. Does he believe in God the Father?
Yes.
Okay. What is a father?
Has multiple definitions. Which one are you talking about?
Which ones are coherent?
Uh, well, one of them's a parental unit of a adult human male, but words have multiple definitions, so
Yeah, like
there's
what?
other definitions
Well,
too.
sure. And would Donald Trump be using father in a social sense when he's referencing God the Father?
Do you have a syllogism? What are you getting at?
I'm confused. Do you want to respond to what I just said?
I can respond to it, but I'm just not. I don't really understand how this is all relevant.
Cool. I would love a response. I don't care if you think it's relevant in your head yet.
What's the question?
Did you even hear what I said?
I did. I was
What
just.
were we just talking
He
about?
believes in God the Father. If he's going to talk about God the Father, he's going to be using a different definition, probably first person of the Trinity.
And he's going to be using a definition that's coherent because he knows what a man is. So clearly, there's a
Correct.
social definition that he's using in this context. He's not using a
Sure.
biological definition. Do you agree?
In what context? He's just talking about God the Father.
Yeah, God the Father. Like no biology. Does like God the Father has no biology.
Right. So if that's the context, the definition of father would not be a male animal. It'd probably be more about the first person of the Trinity.
It would be more in a social sense. So like, explain to me how
Sure.
like Kamala Harris doesn't understand what a man or a woman is.
Can you explain to me when I made that claim?
It sounded like you were making that claim. Could you just clarify your claim? What was your original claim when you first came
Sure.
along?
Sure. I'll grant you that. I basically did imply that Harris didn't know the difference. I'll grant you that.
Okay, so then like, what's the reason for that?
Are you claiming she does know the difference between man and a woman?
Seemingly, yeah.
Okay. What is her definition of a
I have a
woman?
question. Do you think children know what a man and a woman is?
I would think so. Yeah.
Really? So are you saying that Kamala Harris's understanding of a man and a woman is lesser than that of a child? Is that really
I don't
your
know her.
view?
I don't know her. I don't know her position, but
No.
I'm
Is
very
that your view?
certain
Because it
that
sounds like right now you're infantilizing Kamala Harris right now.
no, that would be putting words into my mouth. Never said anything like that. I don't know her position, but I assume that Trump's would have a more answer of, or his answer to what is a woman would be more aligned to what mine would be. Do you know what a woman is?
Yeah, I do. Do you?
What's a woman?
Yeah,
Yes.
an adult human that's committed towards the social and cultural norms that are typically associated with the female sex.
Okay. I
But
don't
like, do
necessarily
you think
agree.
that you need a definition like that in order to know what a woman is? I don't think children would have that.
Um, I mean, I don't think children would answer that question that way, but
Yet they still know what a woman is, right?
they do.
Okay, so then like,
But
isn't it ridiculous to
what
ask
I'm
for a
confused. What
definition
were
to
you
say that they
asking
don't
about?
know what a woman is if they don't know the definition under your perspective? Because we're talking about ordinary things, right? Like such as our
Yeah.
like the concepts of gender, which we typically can't apply necessary sufficient conditions to.
Right. So why are you asking me about God the Father?
Because you said that you made the implication that Kamala Harris doesn't know what a woman is, and I'm saying that we obviously know what there's social senses of the term gender. So then why would she not know what a woman is?
What does that have to do with God the Father?
That's a social sense of gender. God the Father, no biology for God the Father, yet still considered a father. Not male, still
Right.
father.
What's wrong is there a contradiction?
No, I'm saying it's a social sense of the term, not a
Is there a
biological sense.
contradiction?
Are you hearing me?
Yes, but is there a contradiction? Are you hearing me?
I'm not necessarily claiming that there's a contradiction. Did you hear me?
Okay, so why are you even bringing it up as if it is?
I didn't. I'm simply
I
describing
just
to
want to
you.
know why you brought up God the Father. Like, what was your angle with God the Father? I asked you what it was earlier, and you said you demanded to answer your question. So can you answer my question? Like, why'd you bring up God the Father?
I've told you multiple times. I'll tell you again. It's to
Sure.
demonstrate that there's a social sense of the term father in the context of gender that is used that's totally coherent, and that Donald Trump also uses that context, right? And that he doesn't always use it in a biological sense. Clearly,
Well, if he's saying God the Father, are you saying there's instances where he would say God the Father and be referring to the biological sense?
God the Father, and he's referring to the. No,
So why would you bring it up then? Are you trying to
because
equivocate?
no, I'm demonstrating to you that he's using it in a social sense, and that's coherent to use it in that social sense under your own perspective.
Okay, so when he uses it in a social sense, he's using it as the first person of God, like the first person of the Trinity, God. He's never using God the Father in referring to a biological sense. Do you agree?
Yeah, he's using a social context.
So why are you even talking about God the Father? Like what relevance does it have to like me supporting Donald Trump because he knows the difference between a man and a woman?
Dude, I've answered the same question like 4 or 5 times. Would you like the same
It's,
response, or would you like to go
it's a
watch it back on
social.
YouTube later?
No, I just don't. I'm just not understanding. Can you say it a different way? Like I just really don't understand how, like, what angle you were going for.
I don't know how to bring it down to the level of a kindergartner. I'm not quite sure on that. Is there? I'm confused at what point
What is
what
a
of what I said was
kindergarten? Are you trying
complex.
to?
I'm
Are you
confu-
implying that
I'm
I'm a
confused. I'm
kindergartner?
confused at what in terms of what I said was complex that you didn't understand. Can you explain to me?
Because you were attempting to equivocate two different definitions of the same word and applying it under the same umbrella
No,
of just a social
I
sense.
wasn't
That's
equivocating
deceiving.
any. Can you tell me what an equivocation is?
Yeah, it's when you use two different definitions of the same word and switch definitions mid argument.
No, no. So
Yes,
no,
yes,
an
yes.
equivocation is to say that there's only one sense used of a term when someone's clearly using two different senses of a term, right? They're using a sense to say that they're using this certain definition of the same term when they're using a supposed different definition,
What
right?
you're doing right now is
That's
obfuscation.
no,
Like you're just
I'm describing what an equivocation is
all right. Well, explain
in
it
terms of
to a 5-year-old so
definitions.
the audience can understand.
So again, I'm confused specifically at what point what I said was confusing to you. If you'd like
Because you were
to
attempting to equivocate God the Father. It was
I'm
very
not
deceiving.
equivocating.
I'm
I
calling
let
you
me
out.
can I be clear? I'm not
Sure.
equivocating. How was I
Yes, you
I
are.
wasn't claiming that this is the only way to use the term, or I wasn't trying to say that this is the term and that's not the way to use it or something. I wasn't making any sort of claim like that. All I was claiming is that Donald Trump himself uses a social context of the term gender, right? That relates to the term of
Right.
fatherhood that is specifically going to be coherent under your own perspective. And if there's a social context of the term gender that's going to be coherent under your worldview, well, then clearly that's not going to be some sort of issue when it comes to anyone else's views, if it is the case that they believe in some sort of social definition of the term of gender.
Right. So when you say social context, you're referring to both Father as the biological and Father as the first person of the Trinity. Is that correct? You're using that
No,
social context as an umbrella to encompass both of those instances. Is that
no,
correct?
no.
Okay.
When
Well,
I'm
can you
referring,
clarify then why
yeah,
that's relevant to this
yeah,
conversation?
clearly when we're referring to God the Father in that context, we're referring to how it's specifically the social connotation, and that's the use that Donald Trump would believe in. Because Donald Trump is Christian and he
Okay. Answer me
believes
this question.
that
Is there
God, the
any
Father, is a
instance
father, well, then clearly he's committed towards those beliefs. Given that he's committed towards those beliefs, he believes that
that
there's a
has nothing to do
coherent
with
usage of
gender?
the term.
None of that has to do with anything with
It
gender.
does. Father, you don't think fatherhood relates to gender?
Okay, so there you go, equivocating again.
Wait,
How many do you agree that definitions have more than one meaning?
fatherhood in a social sense relates to gender. Gender is not only biological.
Okay, and okay, so now you've contradicted yourself. So when you say a social context, you're referring to Father as first person of the Trinity and Father as a biological sense. You're putting an umbrella over both of those
I'm
instances.
not
You're calling it social
equivocating between
context.
them at
Yes, you
all.
are.
No,
Yes,
I'm
you
not.
absolutely are. Yes, you absolutely are. And you're starting to
Okay,
realize
okay.
that I've got your number, and you're a little nervous, I can tell, because you don't know where to go with this. Because you're using an umbrella, social context, to talk about God the Father being spiritual and God the Father being biological. That's deceiving. That's in a fallacy.
Okay, I'm clearly not equivocating. I was just
You
saying that
clearly
like
are.
Donald Trump is
Okay,
using.
this is your argument, okay? Basically, I'm trying to say all dogs are canines. And you're saying, no, I've heard you call your friend dog. Are you saying your friend is a canine? That's your same argument.
That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm
Yes, it is.
saying that
You're
Donald Trump.
equivocating. You're saying, oh, you say you called your friend dog? You're saying your friend's a canine? Just because it's the
No,
same sounding word, God the
that's
Father,
not what I'm saying
doesn't
at
have
all.
anything to do with gender. Has nothing to do with gender. Just because it's the
Can
same
you can you
word,
can you
that's
describe
called
my
equivocating.
can you describe my argument in a literal sense without referring to any other things? What is my argument? Describe it back to me.
Your argument is that Donald Trump uses God the Father in his context, which means that it relates to the gender or how people typically understand the word father. And so you're saying that when he says God the Father, it's talking about gender is relevant in that case when he talks about father because it's a social context.
No, no, you didn't understand the
Oh,
argument.
we'll clarify.
I will.
Clarify.
I will clarify the argument.
Thank you.
I said that Donald Trump believes in a coherent usage of the term father that relates to a social sense, right? It's used in a social sense.
Okay, stop right
So,
there. It's
given
used in a
that,
social sense.
can I please
So,
finish?
are there two emphases? I've already have an issue with where you're going with this.
I
But
do,
go
I,
ahead and finish, and I'll
cool.
talk about
I
that
don't
first
really care.
instance. Okay, continue.
Okay. So, given that he believes that there's a coherent usage in a social sense, then your description as to why Kamala Harris doesn't understand what a woman is, probably because she's using it
I
in
don't
a
really
social
care about
sense,
Kamala Harris. I just
right?
care that I've heard Donald Trump
Okay.
mention
Then
that there's
let's.
a difference. I've never
You know
heard her.
what? This clearly isn't going through your brain. Let's have a conversation about the topic because you're clearly not understanding this point. I don't think that we're going to have any movement on this point. I don't think that you're going to understand this. Do you want to have a conversation about anything else?
I don't know. I just think it's deceptive how you were trying to bring God the Father into the equation when you know it's equivocation.
It's clearly not an equivocation. I described to you how
Clearly
it's not an
is. Do you want me to
equivocation.
explain again? Like
You're
you
not going
keep
to
saying
explain
under
it.
the social context, like you're saying social context, a coherent use of the word father. So you're basically saying when Trump says God the Father, people understand it as being a biological word, which is probably not untrue,
No, that's not
but
what
that
I'm
doesn't
saying.
mean that.
I
Okay.
never said that when Trump believes in God the Father, that he's using it in a biological sense. I said that he's using it in a social sense, which means he believes that there's a social usage of the term that is coherent, that is not biological. Just that he believes that there's one that's coherent. So you can't use that very reason to believe that Kamala Harris doesn't know what a woman is, right? As a reason as to why you wouldn't vote for her. Because you said you don't look into politics, you have 55-hour work weeks, and that you don't have the time to look into anything, and all you know is that Donald Trump specifically knows what a man and a woman is. That's it. That's all you said. So if you'd like to expand upon that in general, you can go for it, but you've provided me nothing in this conversation.
Got it. So when you say the social sense, you're referring to the biological or spiritual definition of the word father.
So you're using a social
Are you
slash
just
what
are
you
you
would
just
consider
umbrellaing
spiritual.
both? Are you putting umbrella over both? Like
When I'm
when you say it, the social context, are you talking about
listen,
spiritual or
well,
biological?
listen. When I'm referring to God the Father, I'm referring to how the Bible defines the term, because I don't
Yes.
believe in God the Father.
So how does the Bible define the term?
Yeah, it's going to be in a social sense, right? It's relating to
Okay,
specifically
you keep saying it's
God.
social sense.
Let
Give
me
me a
explain.
definition.
Let me explain why. Because God the
You
Father
want to say social sense so you can encompass more than one definition because you're a sneaky liberal trying to equivocate.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, you are. You are, and you know you are. You brought it to Jubilee. You brought it several times to this stage. You know it's an equivocation fallacy. You know you're deceiving people by tricking them into thinking God the Father must have XY chromosomes, therefore conservative owned. It's very deceptive.
No, if you're saying that that gender can only be used in a biological sense, then you are
Never said that.
committed. Then you are committed to saying God the Father specifically has either XY chromosomes, small gametes, right, or male genitalia. And
Do you
if
agree
none of
that
those, can
words
you
have more
please
than one
listen to what I'm
definition?
saying? Can you please listen to what
You
I'm saying?
agree? Sure.
Can you please
But I'm
listen
going
to
to
what
ask
I'm
you the
saying?
same
Can
question
you
when you're
please
done
listen to what
talking.
I'm saying? Well,
Yeah, I'm going to ask you the same
that's
question when you're
clearly
done.
indicative of the fact that you're not listening.
Probably,
Can you
but go
repeat to me
ahead.
what I just said?
You repeat to me what I just said. What was the last thing
I'm
I said
waiting.
before I asked
I'm
you a question?
waiting.
You
If you
are being
don't
nice. I
engage with
agree.
specifically what I'm going to bring up, I'm going to kick you. You're
Okay.
being insufferable.
Okay. Go ahead. Ask your question.
What did I say? Can you at least
I
acknowledge that you
don't.
weren't listening?
It's been like 48 seconds. I don't recall. I don't even think you recall.
So you weren't listening. Can you admit that you weren't
No, I don't
listening?
remember. I
Can
don't remember.
no, can you admit that you weren't listening? How about
I'll
this?
admit that I wanted to ask you a question,
Can you
but
admit
I
that you
won't.
weren't paying attention to what I was saying?
No, I'm listening to everything you're saying because I seek to understand how you're going to wiggle your way out of this.
Okay.
Like you went onto the stage, Jubilee. You deceived millions of people with your
How did I
fallacy
deceive anyone?
because you're trying to say that if you can't, if someone says a male is an adult human, is adult human male, or sorry, if a man is an adult human male with XY chromosomes, then God the Father, does he have XY chromosomes? And you think that's a gotcha when you're using two different definitions of the same word, which is an equivocation fallacy. You know it. So you either didn't know it when you brought it to the stage, or you're knowingly decepting or deceiving millions of people. That's shitty. It's a shitty thing to do, Parker.
So that's not me deceiving anyone. I'm
Yes, it
actually.
is.
Can I please
You were
finish
like,
without you? Can I finish without you speaking, or is
you're
that
absolutely.
possible?
Yes, yes.
So I'm not deceiving anyone because he's claiming that there's a univocal usage of the term, meaning that it's only used in one sense, a biological sense, and that any social sense specifically brought up as per from a liberal is going to be an incoherent usage of the term. Because I've understood his like particular positions on this in the first place, and he actually had pinned to his profile on TikTok a video of him asking a liberal what a woman is and saying any social usage of the term is totally incoherent, and that the only usage of the term is simply biological. So I'm highlighting that he doesn't believe that you can use it in multiple different senses and some that specifically relate to a social sense. Right? And I'm saying while he believes that, he also himself does believe that it can be used in a social sense. So I'm highlighting simply that he can use it in a social sense. And it sounds like he doesn't want to say that because he specifically wants to continue to act like it's solely just biological. Because if he acts like it's solely just biological, well, then he can say, ah, stupid liberal, ha 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 ha. They think gender is social and not biological. They don't think it's based in facts and science. Like, that's like their particular claim about it.
So I think that when he's saying it's a biological thing, would you agree that he's probably talking about the sex versus gender debate of whether or not it's it's biological or just like social? He's not talking about spiritual. Do you agree?
Typically, in that context, he might not be referring to the spiritual, but it doesn't mean that he doesn't know that he holds to that particular definition, and that definition is a social context of the term.
He. Do you think that Donald Trump knows that words have more than one definition?
Do I think that? Do I think yes? I think Donald Trump does understand that words have more than one definition.
Okay. So he'd probably have, if it was explained to him, like, does father have XY chromosomes?
He probably wouldn't
God the
understand
Father.
this, just like you.
No, because I don't understand it. I'm pretty sure most people here, something has clicked that your God the Father angle is complete bullshit.
It's not. It's not. If you act like seriously, if you just
You still doubling
seriously
down on
listen,
it?
I want.
You still,
Of course, because it's a coherent argument. It makes sense. I understand you're very triggered by it because it simply
what the,
shows that that Charlie Kirk was
hey,
being
what is the
ridiculous in
definition
that
of
conversation.
God the Father? What is the definition of Father in God the Father?
It depends on the Christian's view.
Okay, what does the Christian say? Like,
All I'm describing is that from any of their definitions, it can't be biological because it is the case that God the Father doesn't have biology. That's all I'm describing.
exactly,
Literally, I don't even
exactly.
have to tell you a
So there's
definition of
more
God
than
the
one
Father.
definition of
I
Father.
don't even know. Yeah, I
There's
understand.
one that's
I understand. That's
there's one that's
exactly,
biological.
dude. That's
There's one
actually
that's
what
spiritual.
I'm trying to describe that. That's actually
So
what
why are you equivocating between the two? Why are you
I'm not
meshing both
equivocating.
of them into the same argument?
Hey man,
The spiritual father has
hey, I just want to let you know you're having a hard time comprehending my points here, and I would love for you to like go back and like watch this conversation after the fact, like on YouTube, because I really don't think that you're understanding it right now. I think it's going over your head right now, and I'm really trying to explain it to you. Like I'm really trying right now, man. But no, I'm not equivocating. You have to know what an equivocation is, and that I'm clearly not saying that that like I'm not equivocating because it's you just seriously tell me how I was equivocating. Give me the example.
Okay, I will. So when I say a man is an adult human male with XY chromosomes, and then you proceed to ask me, does God the Father have XY chromosomes? Can you lay out the syllogism of what that reasoning is?
Yes. So he says a man, right, is an adult human male. Okay. That implicates that he believes it's only biological, right?
Just
Based upon
syllogism.
that
I don't need a rant.
definition,
Just
based
syllogism.
on that definition, he's not a man. God the Father is not a man. When I
Why?
ask, does God the Father have the XY chromosomes? That's because he gave me a definition saying that in
Are
order
you?
to meet this set of criteria, that you have to have XY chromosomes. So I said, does God the Father meet that set of criteria given that you consider him a father? And he said, no. So clearly it is the case that he doesn't meet that particular definition. And the definition that he's using is not the definition that he just described.